Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings.
Good.
How you doing today?
Good.
How you doing today? Welcome
Morning,
to First
Earthlings.
Contact
How you doing today?
Radio.
Welcome to First Contact Radio.
To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. He'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First
the
Contact
truth.
Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? I've returned. I'm just off and on again sporadically. Okay, I've got some projects I'm working on over these the rest of this year, so it's going to be touch and go here and there. I'll be here as much as I'm able, but when I'm not, I won't. But I'll be back. Anyway, today's the 23rd of April. Right here, our sun sign is in Taurus. Our moon sign is in Cancer. So from the tarot perspective, here's what we got. Taurus, the Hierophant. And here we got Cancer, which is the Chariot. So the Hierophant teaches us that we need to connect or hook together the spiritual with the physical. The Cancerian sign tells us that we need to put on our armor. We need to put on our armor, and we need to protect ourselves from all of the emotions that are out there in the world. Okay, you got the two sphinxes, which are black and white, representing the opposites of life. And so we have to balance them. The way we balance them is we allow spirit to flow through the vehicle that we are. Our body's a vehicle. The armor is a vehicle. The chariot's a vehicle. All a vehicle for spirit flowing through. And when we allow spirit to flow through, we allow ourselves to make decisions and move through life unhampered by all of the emotional challenges that come our way. So that's the whole idea of putting on the armor, wearing the armor to protect ourselves. So that's what we're dealing with today. A water sign and a earth sign. Earth is the conscious mind that's going to be for the rest of this month and into the middle of next month. And the Cancerian sign will be like this until Friday. Okay? And only one aspect we need to look at coming up, and that is this afternoon, 4:22 p.m. And we have a trine between Neptune, which says we have to take a new perspective on things, and Cancer. So we're going to be required to look at our emotions in a whole nother way. Look at our emotions in another way, and that's this afternoon, just shortly after 4:22 p.m. to be exact. Take a look over at the grid Planet Watcher. Here's what we've got going on right here. Again, it's a nice grid just to see where the aspects are when they're coming up. Jewish calendar for Liar, L-Y-A-R, for Liar. Omer count day 19. Tonight will change to 20. This is the days until we count to 49 until we get to the time of the giving of the Torah from God to Moses. So we're getting close to the halfway point there. The daily thought is unsecret wisdom. In the Holy Zohar it is written that through the study of the secret wisdom the final liberation will come with compassion, not with judgment alone. Now the wisdom is no longer secret. Sages and masters have found ways to make it accessible to all. Those who learn it and spread it, they are bringing divine compassion and redemption to the world. The current moon phase is 27% of the way full, making our way up to a full moon. It's a waxing moon. Solar wind is 420.8 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index is quiet at a 2. Could get up to an unsettled area, 4. We've had a storm off and on the last couple days. Corona holes, nothing really. Little one here. AM-class flare possibilities moving from 45 down to 20%. X-class is dropping from 5 to 1. Geomagnetic storm activity is dropping as well. So all around, we seem to be subsiding in the energy around us. Got the Lyriad showers tonight, so keep your eye open for those. And last but not least, it's almost May, but the winter star Sirius still twinkles low into southwest as twilight fades. How much later into the spring can you keep Sirius in view? I don't know, but we'll find out as we go along, right? There you have it. That is our cosmic weather. So that's what we're dealing with as we go into the world. The idea is just take a look at it, see what we're dealing with. We know that we're dealing with an earth sign for the conscious mind. So the conscious mind is dealing with things related to the earth, physical things, the body, material world, all these type of issues. So we've got this in our conscious mind, but we're trying to connect the spiritual with it. And then the unconscious mind, we've got these emotions coming up. If you think of the elements, water and earth, how they could work together, you can have earth floating on the water like an island, or you can have the water could sink the earth then becomes mud. So there's different ways they can work together. Ideally, it is to work in balance and harmony, so all things are working well with each other. All right, that's our cosmic weather. UFO news is up next. Let's get to it.
This is the UFO news with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. So, first sighting, UFO over Virginia Beach has erratic flight path, but definitely under intelligent control. Poster said this UFO was seen around 12 a.m. April 18th above the Westin Building in Virginia Beach. Did anyone else see this object? Is this a UFO or maybe a drone? Any ideas on what it could be? 3 minutes and 28 seconds for the video. And again, this is what we're looking for. It's that little light right up there. You can see it. It's going to go. There you go. So this is above the Westin Building in Virginia Beach. All right. Good shot. If anybody else saw that, please check in. Moving from there, we go to 5 white UFOs shoot into the erupting volcano in Chile. This was recording April 22nd. A local news channel in Chile said it accidentally recorded some UFOs shoot into the plume of the erupting volcano. Most UFO researchers, including myself, do believe that some volcanoes around the world are harder for humans to access, contain alien bases below the surface. Okay, the eyewitness said an evacuation has been ordered at least 13 miles around the site of the eruption. Around 1,500 people are fleeing the area, Reuters reported. Local reports say people are rushing to fill gas tanks and buy food. Calbuco is a stratovolcano in southern Chile located southeast of Linquiju Lake and northwest Chapo Lake in the Los Lagos region. The volcano surrounding area are protected within the Liquanahu National Reserve. Okay, so basically, we got the plume here, and then we got the UFOs diving on in. And there we go. Let's get a little closer look. See that? Right there. Okay. So zoom this in, you can see it. See how quick those guys are? They move in pretty quick. Okay. But again, very interesting how they're going into the volcano. It kind of reminds me of remember the Star Trek movie? One of the latest Star Trek movies, and they dove into that volcano to stop it from erupting. Is that what's going on here? Crop circle near Macmillan Way, Gloucestershire, England, April 19th. Okay. All we have here is there's their circle right down there. Looks like a big flower, doesn't it? Okay, it's a very interesting looking one. Definitely a flower type shape. Alright. That's the latest crop circle. Here we have CEFAA concludes that the UFO above northern Chile was not made by man or weather phenomenon. So this is the object right here in question. The truth is out there, as experts at the Center for the Study of Anomalous Aerial Phenomena have concluded that the strange object spotted by several individuals at a copper mine in Collahuasi in northern Chile wasn't a weather phenomena or any other known man-made object. The object was clearly seen in April 2013, and the images of it were delivered to the government. Miners saw how the object apparently hovered 2,000 feet up, exhibiting unusual swoops and transforming into a silver orb. Jose Le of CEFAA said that the residents in the area have knowledge of the presence of drones because fishing companies use drones. Le stressed that this wasn't a drone. Based on the image analysis in the 2014 CEFAA reports, released a preliminary report named the object as unidentified. According to the report, witnesses have believed that the object was controlled. A meteorologist then analyzed the evidence and ruled out the possibility of the UFO being a lenticular cloud. Furthermore, an image expert concluded that the photographs correspond to an unidentified object. Okay, and one last story here. This takes us back in history to 2007. Pilots spot wild-eyed UFO close to Alderney. April 23rd, 2007. From the Gurney Press and Star. UFO sightings are being investigated by the Ministry of Defense. 2 experienced airline pilots in separate flights saw something up to a mile off the coast of Alderney on Monday afternoon. Surprisingly, Jersey radar equipment did not pick up the object, although the traffic air controller said that he received simultaneous reports from Angry and Blue Island pilots. Ogden's Captain Ray Bauer, 50, said he saw the strange object during a flight from Southampton. He spotted a bright yellow light 10 miles of Alderney, while his plane was about 30 miles off the island at 4,000 feet. It was very sharp, thin, yellow object with green area. It was 2,000 feet up and stationary. I thought it was about 10 miles away, although I later realized it was approximately 40 miles from us. At first I thought it was the size of a 737. 737 is slightly smaller than a jumbo jet, but it must have been bigger because of how far away it was. It could have been as much as a mile wide. As he continued his approach to Alderney, Captain Bauer saw a second identical object further to the west. It was exactly the same, but it looked smaller because it was further away. It was closer to Guernsey. The sighting come days after reports that the scientists have discovered outside our solar system an Earth-like planet capable of supporting extraterrestrial life. I can't explain it. At first I thought it might have been a reflection from the vinery in Guernsey, but that would have disappeared quickly. This was clearly visible for about 9 minutes. The sightings happened about 3 p.m. Captain Bauer, who has flown commercial planes for about 20 years, said he had described the objects to air traffic control and filled an incident report. As I got closer to it, it became clear to me that it was tangible. I was in 2 minds about going towards it to have a closer look, but decided against it because of the size. I had to think of the safety of the passengers first. He then added that the experience had been quite scary. I'm certainly not saying that it was something of another world. All I'm saying is I've never seen anything like it before in all my years of flying. Paul Kelly, 31, the air traffic controller who was on duty, said the Blue Islands pilot has made similar report, but nothing had appeared on his radar. The pilot from the Blue Islands was en route to Jersey at the same time. As he went past Sark, he described an object behind to his left. He said the description was very similar to Captain Boyer's, and then described it as being exactly the same place, but they were looking at it from opposite sides. The pilot told him the object had about 1,500 feet beneath his plane. The Blue Island pilot was 3,500 feet at the time, so again, both pilots placed it at the same altitude. If the object was stationary, equipment would have not picked it up because the radar would have screened it out. All right, we have a couple great interviews here from this. And that, my friends, is our UFO news for today. I'm going to jump away. I'll be back. I've got an interview that I'm going to play for you. It's a really good interview. I'm going to play it in 3 parts over the next 3 days. Stay tuned. I'll be right back and we'll get to that.
Come into our circle, Great Spirit. Fill our souls with peace.
Okay, let's continue on. So, today I have an interview. It's an interview. It's with a gentleman named Mark Sargent. The interview we did not too long, a couple weeks ago, and I've put this together. It's a Mark Sargent. I've talked about him before. He has a video series called Flat Earth Clues. 11 parts to the video series in which he breaks down the whole idea of the Earth being flat as opposed to being a round globe. Now, I know that probably on first hearing you think I've lost it. I've completely flipped out. I'm now talking about the Earth being flat. Well, I am talking about the Earth being flat, and maybe I have flipped out and lost it, but nonetheless, I'm going to play this interview for you. You see, we live in a time when there's a lot of things that we thought were real are proving themselves out to be false, and things that we thought were false are proving themselves out to be real. We've been deceived so many times down here on Earth that we really need to use our critical thinking. And that seems to be a challenge these days because critical thinking is not something that is encouraged. As a matter of fact, what is encouraged is that we instantly turn away anything that sounds nonsensical and turn away from that thought. Even if the nonsensical thought eventually turns out to be true, our first intuition is to stomp it away, say it doesn't exist. And that's not a very good practice. You see, a couple weeks ago I read a list, and on that list there were 33 conspiracy theories that had been proven to be true over the course of the years. 33. So what that means is 33 times skeptics have heard the information and said that's not true. And 33 times they were wrong. Proven wrong now. Because time has gone by and we can look at history and we can know what has happened. That's not a very good record. 33 wrong out of 33. So how many more things are we going to find out in this world that are incorrect, that we've been led to believe were true? How many things? Could be a lot. So, in order to move through this, my suggestion is we have to have critical thinking. We have to be able to look at a subject objectively to see what the subject is telling us. This particular subject about the Earth and the shape of the Earth, it's a subject that has been debated for quite some time. As a matter of fact, as you will hear during the course of the interview, the initial thought that the Earth was flat was the primary thought until about 500 years ago. And that's when everything changed, when science came into the picture. So the primary thought upon this planet was that we were flat. The Bible talks that we are flat. All of the spiritual books that are out there present a flat Earth model. The point is that we go through life with all of this information in front of us. Somebody says something that we have to think about a different way, and we suddenly jump on the bandwagon that that's how it is because it comes from an official source. Bottom line is we need to really be more critical in our thinking. I'm going to play this interview, and I want you to put aside any of your beliefs and just listen to the information. Go then and watch these 11 parts to the series. For nothing else, just to learn what information is out there about this subject. Because it's a very fascinating subject that after all of these years, it's still here. And there are still those who have spent a great deal of time studying the subject because there's something valid to it. Is it 100% valid? I don't know. Is it 0% valid? I don't know. All I know is there's truth within here. And we're not going to get to the truth unless we're brave enough to look at the evidence. And just because we had some scientists tell us that the Earth is round doesn't mean that we have to stop looking if we find that their evidence really isn't what we thought it was to begin with. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to get to this interview. I'm going to play 25 minutes today, 25 tomorrow, and then on Saturday I'm going to play 25 minutes more. That way you get the full interview. However, this full interview is available in its entirety. All you got to do is click on the link to go to it from First Contact Radio's lists today, and you can go and listen to the whole thing in its entirety. I just want to make sure that I play the whole thing on the course of the show so that everyone listening can get a piece of that, and then hopefully you'll go and you'll listen to the full version. All right, there you have it. That's my rambling warm-up. This is the interview. Here we go. Hello, Earthlings. My guest today is Mark Sargent. Today we're going to address a topic that not only is one of the greatest conspiracy theories on the Earth, but also happens to be about the Earth. Mark was born in Seattle, Washington. He grew up in South Whidbey Island and founded the Brimstone Fireworks Company when he was in college. He spent 3 years as a sous chef in a Greek restaurant, won the first computer pinball world tournament in 1994, and was hired by a PC game publisher in Boulder, Colorado the same year. He played computer games for a living until 1997, and he's been in the Boulder technology sector ever since. Mark's not married, he doesn't have kids, so most of his extensive free time is spent unraveling the hidden truths of our civilization and the never-ending search for the meaning of life itself. If you had to pick one single motto, it would be hope for the best, prepare for the worst. A close second is don't regret what you've done, regret what you haven't. Mark, welcome to First Contact Radio. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm really excited about this topic, and I know lots of people are, and the response you've had from it is more than you realized that you'd have.
Indeed.
And my response to it is certainly more than I ever thought I would have on this particular subject. But when the truth is out there, we need to we embrace it, and we know.
Agreed.
So I became aware of you through your video series, the clues about the flat Earth clues. What prompted you to want to create this, and what is like the kind of overall essence of what this series is about?
Initially, why I created it was I had started out looking at other conspiracies, and this was one that I just hadn't looked at. Like most conspiracy people, I hadn't looked at it for the longest time because it's ridiculous, it's ludicrous, and it is the worst conspiracy you'd ever want to back. So, but I eventually said, okay, I'm going to open this box and see what's inside. And for me, there was no doubt. It's like, okay, there's nothing in here. So I'll just look through it and I'll be done with it very, very quickly. But as I was looking through it, I started to go down the path of the history of how the globe came to be. And I noticed as I was going through it that most of our history, for the first 4,500 years of who we are, it was always a flat or flat-ish enclosed system, and that spans all religions, all cultures. There's myths and legends going back forever. You can find it everywhere. So I thought, okay, that's fairly interesting, but I really wanted to see, eventually, I think science takes over, and they prove it's a globe, and that's all there is to it. So, I started going through the timeline, and I realized that about 1500, mid 1500s, the scientists, through a sort of scientific revolution, start molding the Earth into from a flat system, flat enclosed system that looked like this, into a globe. And the churches and religions kind of bent with it because, at that point you've got a real division. You've got one idea that says, well, it's flat, it's an enclosed system. The other says, no, it's a wide open globe system. And the two just couldn't live together. So the church says, okay, we're just gonna go with this, and it's not that much of a stretch for us. Fine, it's a globe. God still created the globe, and we'll move forward with it. But the problem was that there was no way to prove it. And so 1500s, they were saying that this is where we live, but there was literally no way to prove it. They weren't even remotely close. They were centuries away from ever proving it, and so, you go through the centuries, from 1500 all the way up to about 1900, and then you start getting planes. And then around the middle of the 1950s, when we were doing explorations down in Antarctica, things started changing. And what I mean by that is everybody started acting, the governments, the very rich people, and the royalty, everybody started acting really, really strange. And so I started going backwards, working through the timelines, and I realized that as I was going through it, I just found more and more evidence that this isn't where we live, and it was wrong. And as I progressed further and further down this path, it became more and more apparent to me that this was just a symbol. This is just an image that they put out there, and the real world looks nothing like it. So that's how I started.
Okay, cool. So you put together this series. You have 11 videos that part of it.
Yep.
And I thought that your organization was amazing.
Thank you.
And with information like this, the key to me is how well information is organized, because people need to really have things explained to them very thoroughly.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I thought if we go systematically in the order that you did your presentation,
Sure,
that might really be good. So your first one is called Empty Theater.
Empty Theater. And that was more of a teaser more than anything else, because if you believe in the enclosed system, then there are certain rules you have to follow. And one of which is the space program is absolutely put into not just question, but complete doubt at that point. And so Empty Theater really touched on, and then again, it was kind of, easing people into it, because I know this is a jarring subject. It was jarring for me. I certainly didn't want to believe it. For people out there that understand, so, he's nuts, he's crazy. It's like, no, I was looking at this thing, and I was looking at it for 9 months, and I was going, every time I looked at it, I was going, oh, please don't be flat. Please don't be flat. But it kept coming up flat. So the first thing I threw at people was Empty Theater, which was the noted absence of Hollywood movies that dealt with the moon missions at all. And it was striking to me how well it was hidden, because people don't understand. You can ask people, it's like, oh yeah, you remember that mission about the moon, the movie about the moon, and people will go, oh yeah, their initial reaction is, oh yeah, there's a movie about the moon. I go, really? What is it? And then they'll start looking back, and every movie they reference, every movie they're thinking about is usually a science fiction movie. It's Red Planet, or it's 2001: A Space Odyssey, or it's Mission to Mars, or it's something like that. And so I went down and I said, okay, look, this is what we've seen so far. Hollywood makes a ton of science fiction movies that go into space, and then a smaller group of movies that deal with sort of a pseudo future, like what could happen in space.
Right.
But then you start digging into movies like, okay, what about factual accounts? Like the greatest achievement of all time, which is supposedly our trip to the moon. Where's the movie there? And I looked, and I'm a big media guy. I absorb all media, and I'm a big movie buff. And I realized as I was going through my mind, I was going, and then, looking up on Wiki and looking at all the stuff, I was going, there is no movies. The closest thing we had, if the moon missions supposedly ended in 1972, the first movie that was even made wasn't until 1983, and that was called The Right Stuff, which was really just an astronaut recruiting movie more than anything. It was, it was just, the astronaut training program, and it was 3 hours long. Excuse me. And at the end of those 3 hours, they barely even made it into low Earth orbit. And there was no sequel. It won a whole bunch of awards, made a ton of money. It was absolutely left wide open to, excuse me, my voice is losing. It was absolutely left wide open to a sequel, but it didn't happen. So after that, there wasn't a single movie referencing it until 1995 with Apollo 13, starring, all big names, and I think it was directed by Ron Howard. And after 1995, that was it. There were no moon movies, and it sticks out. People don't understand. It's like how, why? You know full well. You being down in Los Angeles, Hollywood makes everything. They make sequels to utter crap, and you're telling me no one's touching this script. No one could come up with a moon landing footage, and the reason was, and I say it in the clip. It's like, look, because you can't do a moon movie. You cannot simulate a moon movie, because if you have the actual moon footage, what they're pushing off is the actual moon footage, and a real Hollywood movie that it's dead on, then you get that weird blurring of the lines, and people will go, well, wait, it looks just like the same thing. So how do we know that's real? And that was, I have no doubt in my mind that is NASA's big thing. Is like, we're just not, if anything even comes down the pike in Hollywood along those lines, it is redirected somewhere else. Right. So that was empty theater.
Well, what we know now is they actually did make a Hollywood moon movie back in 1969, and they had one of the greatest directors of all time directed it. So
Stanley Kubrick, you're absolutely right. And again, there's no coincidence there that he started working on 2001: A Space Odyssey, the greatest space epic of all time, in 1963, the exact same time that the moon program was firing up. The rumors that he worked for him, they're not rumors. He absolutely worked for him, and it went bad, and he wrote it. He got so soured with it that he wrote his entire confession into The Shining, which was made in 1980. He wrote it in code. Anyone can look it up. The documentary is called Room 237. It's brilliant, and I have no doubt.
So we're going to move on now to part 2, and the second part is Bird Wall. So what is Bird Wall all about?
Bird Wall was really my point of no return. Bird Wall covered the exploration of the parts of the world we hadn't discovered yet. And more specifically, we went down the road of Admiral Richard E. Byrd. And he is most known for the hollow earth theory because he explored the North Pole in 1926. And we're not going to talk about the hollow earth theory because it's everything, all the really interesting stuff when it came to that guy came to the South Pole. So in 1928, he was recruited to start doing explorations down the South Pole. And from 1928 until about 1954, he did 4 big expeditions. And I'm going to include Operation High Jump, which we won't go into detail here. But what had happened was he went down there and it was like he was looking for something. And for me, there was little doubt that the authority knew. At the highest level, people knew. If you want to talk about royalty or very rich people or old governments, people knew at the highest level what the world should have looked like. But unless you have the technology to exploit it, you're not going to be able to do anything. So eventually you're going to have to prove it out because after 20 generations, it really just diminishes into legend. Let's say you're the Prince of Spain. Like your grandfather, this map has been passed down and your father before him. And it's like, yeah, but we can't go there, so who cares? So they picked a guy named Richard Byrd, and they sent him down to the South Pole, and he was doing expeditions down there for a long time. And then in 1954, he took a quick break to get ready for his next expedition, and he went up to the States, and he started doing interviews on television. And he did one for CBS. And it was very, very interesting, and we're lucky to have it. It's on YouTube. You can download it. Richard E. Byrd. It's a very easy. It's black and white, but it's a very, very telling interview where he goes over the details of his last mission. He was super excited about being back from Antarctica. Could not say enough about it. And what he really couldn't say enough about, so yes, from a scientific standpoint, it's very, very interesting. There's a vast, massive land, bigger than the United States, that he hadn't even flown over yet. Human eyes literally hadn't seen it. And of course, that was kind of telling for me. It's like, because that was obviously going to be the first place he headed back down to for the next mission.
Right.
But the big thing he talked about was that Antarctica was really just made out of money from a resource standpoint. It was just a treasure trove. It had everything. It had an entire mountain range made out of coal. Where does that happen? It had oil. It had minerals, it had uranium, and all these things, people were already salivating and getting ready for it. It wasn't just the Americans. The Russians were down there who was trying to rebuild from World War II. They had a very big vested interest in that, which he mentions at the back part of his interview. The Great Britain was down there, Argentina, Chile, New Zealand. They were all down there. Everyone was getting psyched up, and best I could figure was what was happening was, let's say you had the old map and you saw what the world really looked like, and you send down your best guy, and whatever they were sending him down to find, he wasn't finding it. And he hadn't been finding it for 20, 30 years. And so they finally said, well, let's just start making money on this thing. And again, that's Murphy's Law, because as soon as you say that, at least we can get the money out of it. And as soon as you do that, that's when things go wrong. And so in 1955, he was sent down for one final mission. And I mean one final mission, because this is the last mission anyone ever goes down there for. You say, oh, no, they probably had missions in the 70s, 80s, 90s. No expeditions publicly ever happened in Antarctica again, because they found something super scary. Right. And so he goes down there in 1955, 1956, called Operation Deep Freeze, an American expedition, and everything seemed to be going well. The expedition ends, but then things start getting super weird around the world. Governments start making these big moves and start doing big things. And they don't seem like they're connected when you first look at them. But when you start looking at the timeline, it starts to make sense, but it only makes sense in an enclosed system. So the first thing that happened was, after 1956, 1957, Russia and America became really frantic over rocketry programs. And they started building rockets. And then within a year after they're building their first rockets, they decided to put nuclear weapons on the top of them and start firing them straight up into the air and detonating these weapons. And they did that starting in 1958. And after the second shot, which was the early part of 1958, and you guys can look this up, just Google high altitude nuclear explosions, you'll see it. After that second shot, NASA was founded right away. It's like, okay, all of a sudden you just militarize space. It's like, all right, maybe that's not connected to anything. And then you keep firing, and then within, I think, 9 months later, they seal off Antarctica. And by that I mean all the nations abandoned everything simultaneously, all the oil, all the coal, the uranium, the minerals. They abandoned it simultaneously, and they put a treaty in place in 1959 called the Antarctic Treaty. 10 nations signed it then, and they basically made a treaty that says no one gets to go down to Antarctica again, period. And any nation that and had this weird and any nation that came on board, so like if you're a nation to become industrialized, you have to sign this treaty. You can't even debate it with them. So it's like, well, what about the oil and the coal? No, you're signing this. It means you're not going down to Antarctica. Well, how long? Well, forever. And that treaty is not even debatable at this point all the way until the year 2041. It's ridiculous. It is it is not what we are. It's not what we do. We, especially on the American front, we are a capitalistic, greed-filled society. If there's oil, we're going to get it. It doesn't matter where it is. We will start wars to get it. We will go into your national parks. We will do everything. And then there's this Antarctica thing. It's like they won't even petition it. They won't even put anything on paper. It's like they're told, whoever it is at the highest level of the petroleum industry has been told, don't talk about it. You don't bring it up anywhere. You don't mention it in the press conferences. This is something, and I don't even know if they're even told why. They're just says, look, it's a matter of national security. And it's like, well, which nation? Is it a national security thing? Because you had 8 different nations, including the USSR at the time. And everyone agreed at the same time. When does that happen? When does everybody agree to leave at the same time? So for me, the bird wall, there was absolutely no doubt in my mind, because that they had found the edge of the firmament or the enclosure or whatever you want it, because they couldn't come up with a cover story big enough to keep people off. You think, well, if it's just the wall, maybe you can put a perimeter, maybe 100 miles out to where you can't see it. No, you can't take that chance, because let's say you let the oil companies in. The problem there is you let the oil companies, you let the mining companies in. Sooner or later, either by accident, either someone's going to stray off course with a helicopter or a plane, or they're going to say, what they'll probably do is they'll point to that area and they'll say, hey, we want to explore over there. And then the military says, no, that's ours. You can't go over there. And be, what are you talking about? Why can't we go over there? And so the oil companies would keep pushing the boundaries, and it would never end. It'd be this tug of war, and the governments and the military decide, you know what, we're not even going to address it. We're just going to keep them off, because it's bigger than money.
Right, and that's bizarre, because the moment someone sets up a boundary, that's a clue for those who are paying attention that there's something that they don't want you to see.
Exactly, and this is not like Area 51, where you put up motion sensors and big scary signs saying lethal force authorized, because that's just a small part of Nevada. That's just a small part of a desert. This is literally like shutting off the entire section of South America. It's that big, and it's like, why would you shut off a piece of land that big? Because it's not it's not a military, secret military base of ours. Plus, why would all countries shut off an area that big?
Right.
Again, this is not people don't understand. This is not an American problem. This is a global problem.
Right.
So,
all right. Well, let's take a look at some of this clip of Admiral Byrd on the TV show.
Our very distinguished guest for this evening is Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
The North Pole used to be a no-man's land, but these are the days when, by buying a ticket on a commercial airliner, you can fly across the North Pole and drink a cocktail at the same time. Only 30 or more years ago, about 35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Admiral, an expedition to which I believe you're the advisor is now en route. What is that expedition doing?
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka, and it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back, and upon the information we get from that undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definitely planned, or is that...
that is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, at the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand, I think everybody can, the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia. But why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime, because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And, you know, as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places, once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but to our allies.
I was going to ask you, does it have military importance?
It has some, and as the world shrinks, it will continue to shrink with an ever-increasing acceleration, thus bringing these places closer. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important strategically.
Well, has the development of air power increased the strategic importance of places like the
very much
Palma Peninsula, we'll say?
Very much so. Even now, if anything happened and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica. Then between there and Cape...
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We are pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
Well,
it was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
Is it any secret? Is there uranium there? That would be the only thing that would be practical to actually go after, I suppose. Everything else would be economically unfeasible, wouldn't it?
Well, as we recklessly expend our resources, the time will come when we'll have to go after that stuff down there. Well, you know, I avoided what you said about uranium. I'm not sure about that. I don't want to have the world fighting over the Antarctic.
And Robert, is there a competition among other nations to try to get information about Antarctica and possibly to secure some of these resources?
Well, yes. There are now 7 nations very much interested. Russia is interested tremendously. That I'm sure of. Australia has an expedition down there. The Argentine, the Chile, New Zealand, Britain, and so on. Now, you can understand those people down there being interested because they live down there. The New Zealanders, the Argentinians, the Chileans, and the Australians. And so we don't do much about claiming anything.
Admiral, you make this sound a little crowded. Are there that many expeditions now there or en route there?
Well, you know, as I said, it's the most peaceful place in the world, but I don't think it will be for long because of this intense interest on the part of other nations and this nation.
All right, very interesting. Very interesting. So that's part 1. I'm going to play part 2 tomorrow, and then I'll play a third part again on the next day after that, Saturday. Check out the whole thing, the interview, the link's available, so you can check it out. Let me just keep moving on. All right, here's an article over at In5D. 7 differences between religion and spirituality by Dehan Jachevsky. A lot of people mistake spirituality for religion or some mysterious supernatural occurrence. Some even think of it as a sect, but this is because of their lack of knowledge and their fear of being manipulated. If we move past this and try to study and understand what spirituality actually is, we'll come to a realization that is nothing mysterious or supernatural, nor in any way connected to a sect of any kind. These 7 differences between religion and spirituality will help you to understand what spirituality actually is. Religion makes you bow. Spirituality sets you free. Religion tells you to follow an ideology and obey certain rules or you'll be punished. Spirituality lets you follow your heart and what you feel is right. 2, religion shows you fear. Spirituality shows you how to be brave. Religion tells you what to fear and tells you the consequences. Spirituality makes you aware of the consequences but doesn't want you to focus on the fear. 3. Religion tells you the truth. Spirituality lets you discover it. Religion tells you what to believe and what is right, but spirituality lets you discover it by yourself and understand it in your own unique way. 4. Religion separates from other religions. Spirituality unites them. Although the world, there are many religions, and they all preach that their story is the right story, spirituality sees the truth in all of them and unites them because the truth is the same for all of us despite our differences and our uniquenesses. 5. Religion makes you dependent. Spirituality makes you independent. If you attend religious events, then you are seen as a religious person or someone who is worthy of happiness. Spirituality shows you that you don't need to depend on anything to be happy. Happiness is always found deep within ourselves. 6. Religion applies punishment. Spirituality applies karma. Religion makes and says that if we don't obey certain rules, there is punishment that awaits us, which relies on our belief, whereas spirituality lets us understand that every action has a reaction, and we realize that the punishment of our actions will be the reaction coming from ourselves that we set in motion. And 7. Religion makes you follow other journey. Spirituality lets you create your own. The foundation of one's religion is the story it tells about a god or gods, their journey to the enlightenment, and their truth that they have discovered, making you follow their steps. Spirituality lets you walk your own journey to enlightenment and discover the truth to your own way, following what is in your heart that tells you it's right, because the truth is always the same no matter how you get to it. Every religion came by spirituality, by the journey through which one person became God. The details of the story are not important. They just help the character discover the truth. The message that shares the truth is what is important. The divine code of the human heart that resonates harmoniously through each of us. That is why each religion has something true in it, the truth. All right, very good. Good article. And it's good that we see the differences between such things because we're dealing with this all the time. And spirituality and religion are different, have differences, though there are many similarities. Certainly in the message, that's one of the important aspects. All right, here's our message today from Saint Germain. Here we go.
Saint Germain's message. How to merge with the I Am Presence with a scientific certainty.
April 16, 2015. Channeled by Carla Thompson.
I am Saint Germain, and I say to you that your soul essence is now expanding into the universal realms of creation, where the discovery of your true self shall be elicited with my help. As you tune into my energy, my frequency, or shall I say the frequency of my light gestalt, a new world shall open up for you as a new way of living unfolds before you. Your very life shall move into a new phase of joyous expression and a deep, sincere, heartfelt love of what unfolds around you. The new life may not appear much different as an external measure, but the new life shall feel bursting with a new sense of ever-expanding purpose through an inner doorway. You are but one of many, many light beings who shall now move into a new level of service as you each agree at the soul level to tune into the inner world of your soul. In doing so, you will now fully comprehend what your lives are missing and how you can add to the understanding of your true soul's essence, something which has been ignored by those who even admit to having a soul and utterly dismissed by others as being an absurdity, as an unreal and non-existent aspect of their very being. Is the human being simply a body and a mind? No. How does the body work to control the thousands of biological feedback systems within its boundaries? There are millions upon millions of events in every millisecond created within the inner physical being. Yes, the inner physical being creates these miracles, but know that they are not created on their own. They are created from the energetic complexity of operational overlays that suspend themselves over each body system, the physical, the mental, and the emotional systems via the etheric body, also known as the causal body. There is much work to be done now. Embrace your gift of connection and join me in the uplifting of mankind into the realms of light from whence mankind came. It is time for humanity to awaken to the truth of who they are. It is time to present these abstractions not within a religious context, but from the perspective of information and fact. This shall be the new approach, for only through the thorough and scientific presentation of the existence of soul essence shall fear be dissolved from the human psyche forever, and a new world of unspeakable joy be unleashed.
Very good message. Very good message indeed. Again, kind of ties into what I had mentioned about from the last article about religion. All right, here's our Warrior of the Light passage for today. We're on page 61. The Warrior of Light knows that everyone is afraid of everyone else. This fear generally manifests itself in two ways, through aggression or through submission. There are two facets of the same problem. That is why whenever he finds himself before someone who fills him with fear, the warrior reminds himself that the other person has the same insecurities he has. He has surmounted similar obstacles and experienced the same problems. But he knows how to deal with the situation better. Why? Because he uses fear as an engine, not as a brake. The warrior learns from his opponent and acts in a like manner. So go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale again. And another breath. And exhale. Now slowly just feel your breath as it inhales and exhales. Feel life pulsing through you in two different ways. Feel the rhythm of life out around the world as you're moving out and about. And as you get in tune with the rhythm of life, you understand that life brings us things that we need and washes away the things that we don't. And when we get in this flow, we are constantly in the flow of giving and receiving. So we imagine ourselves flowing through life, receiving information, letting it process, and then letting go which is not needed. And as we move through life and we learn to objectively process all of the information energy that comes through us, we find ourselves moving smoothly through life. We find that the skepticisms and the doubts and the fears are the things that slow us down. So we let go of those. And as we do, we find our faith strengthens and more opportunities present themselves because we are seeing clearer. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey, experiencing the energy all around us, observing. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's the show for today. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you do enjoy this interview that you heard part of today and do listen to the rest of it. I know, as I said before, I probably think I've gone off the deep end, flat earth subject. But you know what? I think these subjects are fascinating, and I think it's very interesting and important that we look at such things to understand how the thought process works. Maybe they weren't right 500 years ago. Who knows? We will know if we find out and we explore looking for the truth objectively. So have an awesome day. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll continue on with the interview and everything else. Till then, I love you. Keep loving each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.